you're married or just in a long-term relationship and you are wondering whether or not it is time to wrap it up and call it the end, this live is for you. I want to talk about the three things to consider before calling it a wrap. And if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Diana Bando. I am a licensed attorney. I am a certified stress management expert, and I help people have better relationships by learning how to use the art and the science of nervous system regulation to become better partners. So at this point, it's now, at the time of recording, it's July 22nd. And if you live in the United States, you've probably heard about the astronomer CEO, Andy Byron, who was seen canoodling with his mistress at a Coldplay concert. And there's been a lot of what I observe as very judgmental commentary on him and cheating and how could he. And so I wanted to offer a different perspective, and a perspective that I think isn't discussed enough. And it's how people who aren't quote unquote cheaters, who aren't necessarily bad people, can find themselves in situations where they are wrapped up in infidelity. And the specific people I want to focus on is high performing, highly ambitious, highly driven people with demanding careers, because I think there's some unique reasons why they're more at risk of doing this, especially in ways that would jeopardize legacies and careers and stock prices of companies that they lead. And so, one of the ways I want to open up is just with a little scripture. I know the Bible is a document that people have mixed emotions about, but I felt like this verse was applicable. It's 1 Corinthians 10:12. And depending on the translation you're reading, it says, if you think you're standing firm, be careful lest you fall. And what that means to me is that sometimes when you take for granted that you're good, you will unnecessarily expose yourself to a degree of risk that you can't handle. And you'll assume that you can handle it because you think that you're good until something happens and you make a mistake. And so in relationships, I compare it to driving on black ice. If you've ever driven a car in icy conditions and hit a patch of black ice, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, what happens when you're driving and you hit a patch of black ice is that your vehicle, like, you lose control of it. Like, and so suddenly, like, you can hit the gas, you can hit the brakes, you can whatever, but you are not in control of the vehicle. The laws of physics are in control of the vehicle. And so you can get into an accident very easily. You can, hit other people, hit things, and even die. You realize that you're in a death trap. Well, when you're in a long-term marriage or relationship, the same death trap can happen. And one of the telltale signs, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video, is that you're constantly ruminating about whether or not the relationship is right for you. And so if you find yourself constantly asking, like, is this right? Should I stay? Should I go? There's probably some other things that are happening. So I'm going to just list those off. And if you resonate with any of them, let me know. So the things that are likely to be happening if you are in a relationship where you're questioning, like, should I stay, should I go, include, like, you're constantly fighting with each other. And not just constantly fighting, but the fights are like ugly. And you never really make up. Like, you just keep fighting. Or you don't fight at all, even when you disagree, because there's like nothing that feels like worth it to fight over. You notice that, the sex, whatever was your normal level has suddenly dropped off, or really, like, even maybe stopped. And why that matters is if you're in a relationship that you want to be in and you're otherwise happy, but the one missing piece is sex, like, you'll complain, you'll say something, you'll be like, we need to have a date night, we need to do something, take a trip, something to, like, get that back to where, it should be, where it works for both of us. But when you're at a place where you don't even know if the relationship's right, you're not sure if you want to be there, like, the fact that it's not happening seems like not a big deal. But if you know my background, I have been a divorce attorney. And, if you look through my shorts, there's actually an interview I did last summer with one of the prominent divorce attorneys where I live. And one of the things that she says that she asks when helping people decide whether or not divorce is right for them is, are you still having sex? Because that is a red flag clue. So, not having sex, not feeling excited to come home. So if you are in a relationship where you're kind of wondering, like, should I stay, should I go? One thing that you're likely to notice is that at the end of the day, when it's time to return to wherever you share a residence with your person, you like want to do anything but, like you want to um, either uh, go to a bar or go do something, or just not come home. Like you just don't want to. And another sign is that you are showing up like a shell of yourself in other areas of your life. So rather than showing up as the best version of you at work, the best version of you in your relationships with your friends, your family, you're kind of a shell of yourself. And the reason for that is because thinking about whether or not the relationship is right for you is draining a lot of your energy. And then, the final one I'll mention is that you start to feel like you're the problem just for wanting more. And the thing is, when you are in a relationship that's kind of spiraling the drain, especially if the other person has checked out, when you make those bids for connection and intimacy and, the relationship that you want, like it gets shut down. And so it's not so much that you want too much, it's just you want it with the wrong person or with someone who's just unwilling to give it to you. So, why do we ruminate about whether relationships are right or wrong? So, the reason that we ruminate is because our sympathetic nervous system has been activated. And the sympathetic nervous system is also referred to as the fight or flight response. And it gets activated anytime our body feels like we are in some form of danger. So when that gets activated, one of the many things that happens inside the body is that the flow of blood to the part of your brain that's responsible for making good choices is called the prefrontal cortex. The flow of blood to that part of your brain gets cut off. And as a result, you're more likely to do things that after the fact, like if someone's like, why did you do that? You'll be like, I don't know. It didn't make sense. You did it because your prefrontal cortex wasn't getting optimal blood flow. Zoe, thank you so much for the compliment. So you are more likely to do things that you wouldn't normally do. And what does that look like? Well, in the context of a relationship where you're unhappy or you're ruminating about whether or not you're unhappy, that can lead to behaving in ways that are out of character, such as engaging in unhealthy escape mechanisms like having getting involved in addictions or inappropriate relationships, not even necessarily affairs, but just inappropriate emotional entanglements. And of course, affairs can be one of the things, but why is this happening? Because you are in a state where you are more susceptible to bad behavior, not because of your character, because a lot of people think that, oh, our character is what determines what we do or don't do. And it's not just our character, it's your character plus your state. So if you are in a state where you are in that stress response, sympathetic nervous system, prefrontal cortex is hijacked, you are more inclined to do things that are not, um, you know, like who you are. And why is that? Because when we are in the stress response, the longer we're there, the further we go into that sympathetic nervous system state, the we eventually get to a point where we lose control. So if you think about people who commit road rage, where they get in violent altercations while driving, or if you think about times when people like binge eat or impulse spending, like what's happening? It's like they've literally lost control because they were in that sympathetic nervous system state, stress response state for too long. And the part of their brain that's responsible for behaving rationally was deprived of sufficient blood flow for too long. And so that is why ruminating about whether or not a relationship is right for you is dangerous, because it's a sign that you are in a state that leads to impulsive behavior that's out of character for you, including cheating. And so that's why that ruminating on the relationship is like being on black ice. A lot of people think it's not a big deal. You're like, I'm just thinking about whether or not this is right. But actually, what you want to do is snap out of it and focus on deciding whether or not the relationship is right. And so there's three big things to do that will help you snap out of the rumination and get into a state of being empowered and making a decision and moving forward with your life, which is what you want. So the first thing is to deal with the low-hanging fruit. There's 3 points I'm going to make. Number one is deal with the low-hanging fruit. What do I mean by that? If you are in a relationship with someone who wants to be in a relationship with you, there are a handful of very easy things that you can do to instantly make the relationship more satisfying for both of you. The first one is learn to speak each other's love language. If you don't know what that is, there's a quiz. Just Google the 5 love languages. It's a book by Gary Chapman. And speaking each other's love languages daily, or at least 3 times a week, but daily is ideal, will help increase the level of emotional intimacy and the level of affection that you feel for each other. So if you're unfamiliar, the love languages are quality time, gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch. And so each person has their own love language. Mine is gifts. So if you want to make me feel loved, gifts are the way to do it. But some people are physical touch. Some people are words. Some people show their love through acts of service, like being a good provider. And so if you're someone whose love language is quality time and you're in a marriage with someone whose love language is acts of service, then it's easy for you to think, oh, they just don't love me because all they ever do is work. Whereas they're thinking, because I love you, I'm going to work so I can provide for you and give you a better life. But all you're noticing is the fact that they're not spending time with you. And if you complain about them not spending time with you, they're going to think, wow, like she just doesn't appreciate all the work I do. So speak the love languages. Number 2 is apology languages. If you've ever been in an interaction, a fight, conflict, whatever with someone, and you tell them, I'm sorry. And then a couple minutes later, they're like, well, you didn't even apologize. And you're like, yeah, I did. Or vice versa. Someone tells you that, they already apologized and you're like, no, you didn't. The issue is likely that you guys were not speaking the same apology language. So in order for an apology to land as being authentic, you have to hear certain magic words. And the problem is most people are unaware of what their own magic words are. For some people, the words are, I'm sorry. For some people, the words are, will you forgive me? For some people, the words are, how can I make this right? But if you don't know your own apology language, you can't then tell your partner, this is what I need from you to make me feel like you're genuinely sorry. So that also is another one where there's a quiz online, 5 apology languages, look it up. Game changer. It's simple, inexpensive, and a great way to make a shift in your relationship. The next way is to increase the polarity. So in order to have a happy relationship, and this doesn't matter if the couple is heterosexual, homosexual, non-binary, it doesn't matter. In order to have a happy relationship, there has to be a masculine leader and a feminine follower. And those roles can be played by either gender. It's not about gender assigned at birth, it's about energy, feminine energy and masculine energy. If both partners are in their masculine energy, what will show up is constant fighting and power struggles, and like sex might be great, but they will constantly be trying to dominate the other, like 2 bulls. And so that's what happens when both are predominantly in their masculine. When both are in their feminine, there's likely emotional intimacy, which is great, but not sexual electricity and chemistry and, wanting to rip each other's clothes off and, the things that make a romantic, exclusive relationship, really feel like it's worth it to put in the work, right? Like the cherry on top. So what you want is masculine leader, feminine follower. The masculine leader is the one who is respected and whose logic is preeminent. The feminine follower is the one who's adored and cherished, and her feelings are the ones that matter more. And if you want a really good book on understanding, how this shows up in relationships, I highly recommend reading Getting to I Do by Dr. Patricia Allen. And so If you are the feminine energy partner in your relationship and you're wanting to really dial up your feminine so that you can be a magnetic polar inverse for the masculine, I have a course on my website called the Unforgettable Woman Formula. The price is currently $22.22. It is pure gold. It talks about kind of the three different things you need to focus on to be a full embodiment of the feminine in a relationship, so that you naturally inspire and activate the masculine in your partner, so that you can have that polarity, so you can have that relationship that feels really good and juicy and one that you both want to be in. So if you're completely unfamiliar with feminine energy or completely unfamiliar with how to embody the feminine, or if you're a masculine partner who's wanting to be able to give feminine guidance to a daughter, a niece, someone younger who you love, then the Unforgettable Woman Formula is just, it's exactly what you need. After this live is over, it will be linked in the description. But if you want to take a look at it now, there should be a link to my website. It's the stresswhisperer.thinkific.com in the bio on this page, and you can just go to the courses tab to see the Unforgettable Woman Formula. So, low hanging fruit. What are the three things? Love languages, apology languages, and polarity. So that is point one. I know it was 3 points within 1 point, but stay with me. I'm almost done. The second thing is to get really clear on what you want, not just what you don't want. So if you are ruminating on whether or not the relationship is right, there's a really good chance that you're spending way more time focusing on what you don't like about the relationship than what you do like. And what I want, oh, hold on. Hey, local. You love embracing your feminine energy. Yes, exactly. Surrendering feels so good. Yes, if you're the feminine energy partner, surrendering feels great. And it's just so wonderful. I am a feminine woman who spent a lot of time in my masculine energy and relationships and spent a lot of years trying to prove myself and compete and, show that I could do anything and me I could do. Rah, rah, rah. And I've canceled my subscription to the Masculine Girls Club, and I'm never going back because it's so much better on the feminine side. And I think also, kind of going off on a little tangent, another thing that happens is like when you really get into your feminine and you are able to more effortlessly attract masculine energy partners, it makes you not hate men. Like I feel like when women are super in their masculine, um, they tend to attract the type of partners that make them hate men. Whereas when you're in your feminine, you tend to attract the type of partners that make you think like men are so great. Like I literally would not want to live in a world without men, like point blank period. So, okay. Also helps my girlfriend's little Don too. Yeah, listen, hey, this is being in your masculine, your feminine. It's not about gender. It's not about orientation. It's about energy. And if you're in Central Standard Time, it's 11:11 right now. It's a little angel number moment. Sending positive vibes to everyone who's watching. Okay, so let me go back to what I was saying. And it's that if you are in that ruminating about the relationship, highly likely that you're more focused on what is wrong than on what is right. And if you're focusing on what is wrong, the problem is your mind is very powerful. It can alter your emotional state, but can also help with creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Hi, Lizzie. And so if you're thinking about wrong, you're more likely to behave in ways that cause wrong things to happen. Oh, thank you for subscribing. Yes, everyone who's watching, if you like this, please subscribe. I should have said that before. And so if you want to break the cycle, rather than focusing on what is wrong in the relationship, you break the cycle by focusing on what you want and getting really clear. Yeah, thank you. Getting really, really clear on what you want. And not just necessarily like with your partner, but like just what do you want for your life? Like what type of experiences do you want to be having in romance? Do you want to, do personal development together? Do you want to pray together? Do you want to travel together? Like, how do you want to feel? Like, it really specific. Like, I'm getting like chills right now just thinking about this. But what do you want for your love life? What do you want to be true about what you do as a couple? Like, what do you want? Get really clear on that. And then once you're clear on that, you can have a conversation with your partner and say, hey, like, I want to have experiences like this. I want to feel like this. Is that what you want too? Because if it is, like, let's work on co-creating that together. Why does this matter? Because when you can have that very specific conversation, it makes it really easy for your partner to then say, yeah, I want that too. Or, no, I don't want that. And then you've got more information that you can use when making a decision about whether or not you've reached the end of the road in this relationship. So get clear on what you want. And why is it that getting clear on what you want is hard? I will tell you, I've been a coach for a couple years now, since 2021. And one of the fastest ways to get a client to shut up in a session is by asking this question: what do you want? And then just waiting. Because usually what will happen is they'll either say nothing or start talking about all the reasons why they can't have what they want without even saying what they want. And I'll like let them talk. I'm like, okay, but what do you want? And it's like, well, my kids, my parents, my this, my that, the way I was raised. I'm like, yeah, right, but what do you want? So what I do at the beginning of my coaching relationship with clients is I have them do an exercise that I've now made available on my website that you can purchase separately without having to hire me. It's called the Future Self Protocol. And in this exercise, you start as a fetus. So it starts with you in utero, and I walk you through a series of guided visualizations where you go from being in your mother's womb to 10 years in the future. And the reason for this exercise and the reason it's so powerful is it allows you to connect with your true desires, not what you were told to want, not what you think would impress other people, but it allows you to bypass, the brain and go straight to the subconscious and go straight to your heart and your desires and get really clear on what you actually want. Like, if everything went right, what would you be like in 10 years? And then have a moment where you get to connect with that version of yourself in 10 years. And so by doing that, it gets easier to say, yeah, like if I believed it was possible, if I could really see it, this is what I would ask for. This is what I would work towards. And so that's why the exercise is powerful. And the other thing is your subconscious mind governs like 90%, 80%, depending on where you look, of the things that you do day in and day out. And this exercise is really powerful for conditioning your subconscious because it can't distinguish between imagination and reality. And so when you see the future that you want as if it's already happened, your subconscious goes to work behind the scenes without any input from you, making it happen faster. So if that sounds like something that could be helpful for you in either getting clear on what you want for your life, in goal setting and whatever, then Future Self Protocol, it's also on my website underneath the courses, and it is also $22.22. I don't know if I'm going to change the price at some point, but I probably won't because I don't want to have to update this video. So, but I would still say get it now in case the price does change, because it's such a powerful exercise. I just want as many people as possible to try it. So I said that there's 3 tips. I know I've said a lot so far. Tip number 1 was deal with the low-hanging fruit, which is love languages, apology languages, and polarity. Tip number 2 was get clear on what you want versus what you don't want. And to do that, the Future Self Protocol can really help. And then the final tip, tip number 3, is to regulate your nervous system. And I know that that probably seems like an odd thing to say if you're unfamiliar with the concept of nervous system regulation, but all that means is that when you're healthy and your body's function optimally, you flow back and forth between your stress response and your relaxation response. The stress response, also referred to as the sympathetic nervous system or the fight or flight response. The relaxation response is when your body is able to heal itself, when you're able to digest food. But it's also when the blood flow resumes to the part of your brain that's responsible for thinking clearly, the prefrontal cortex. And why that matters is you are incapable of doing your best decision making if your prefrontal cortex is not able to get optimal blood flow. So what you want is to be able to, at will, shift into that prefrontal parasympathetic state where the prefrontal is activating. And one of my specialties is teaching people how to shift themselves at will into that state, especially when, they're in the middle of circumstances, whether it's at work, whether it's with a romantic partner, whatever, where they're triggered and wanting to be in that gladiator mode, that fight or flight response. And so one of the fastest ways that you can shift is literally by just using your breath and breathing deeply until you feel yourself relaxing. There's a lot of other ways, but what I do in my private sessions is I work on helping you identify in your body the signs that your sympathetic nervous system has been activated, because they're different for everyone, and then work with you on both short-term solutions for shifting out of that stress response state, but also long-term solutions for adjusting your default stress level so that when things happen, you don't as quickly get into that stress response. So regulate your nervous system. Why does this matter? Because when you have a regulated nervous system and you can remain grounded, especially during conversations in a relationship that are a little bit more triggering, it makes it easier to resolve everything. It makes it easier to find a resolution, middle ground. It prevents you from wasting time with things like wanting to be right. In a marriage, it is totally possible to be 100% wrong and 100% right at the exact same time. And so if you are in that fight or flight response and you're having a conflict with your partner and you're both insisting that you're right and you're both thinking that like someone has to be wrong, you can both be wrong and you'll never be able to resolve anything so long as you're in this gladiator cage match trying to figure out who's right, who's wrong. But when your nervous system is regulated and you're grounded, it's easier to just be like, okay, let's agree to disagree and move on. You can't do that from the fight or flight place. But when you're calm, you can make, what really matters is love. What really matters is connection. What really matters is us finding a way to, you know, have peace again and connection again. And, that's what we're here for. So regulate your nervous system. And so if you want help with that, you can book a private session with me and I can work with you on, like I said, detecting the signs in your body that your stress response is activated and then also deactivating them. And when you book a private session with me now, it's currently July 2025. One of the things I'm currently doing is I'm gifting you as a bonus access to my signature nervous system regulation program called Calm on Command. It's 6 weeks long. I'm in the middle of recording it, so you'll also get a live invitation to the recording sessions when you book now. So I will have the details in the description box after this live. And if you're wanting to book a session with me before, the links are available. The details are linked in the bio page for this YouTube channel. So quick recap to get you off of that black ice, the relationship, and get you onto safe ground where you're not going to lose control and spiral. The 3 things that I suggest doing to help if you're ruminating about whether or not this relationship is right is deal with the low-hanging fruit, love languages, apology languages, polarity. Deal with the low-hanging fruit, and then get clear on what you want, not what you don't want, and regulate your nervous system. If you do those 3 things, by the time you're done, you'll be very clear on whether or not this is a relationship that is worth continuing to invest in and move forward with, or whether this is a relationship that has run its course and the best thing that both of you can do for each other and for your love is to say goodbye. And I will go ahead and mention that if you are wanting to just cut to the chase and you're like, oh, I don't want to do all those steps, just hold my hand, walk me through it. I have a 3-session coaching package called Vows and Vision. It's just for people who are in relationships and they are trying to decide, whether they want to go forward or not. So it's for couples that are thinking about, whether or not they want to get married, whether or not they want to stay married, or are just wanting help with staying married, but like going deeper into deepening their connection. So if any of that sounds good to you, I'll make sure the link to Vows and Vision is in the description box as well. I hope this was so helpful. Please, please, please like if you like this video and share it with someone who you think it could help. And also let me know in the comments what you heard today, maybe for the first time, or what you're going to try, so I can know how this is impacting the people I'm sharing it with. So that's all for now. If you enjoyed this channel, please share this video with someone who you think could benefit from the message. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.